In the next part of the discussion, what I'm going to do is make some bold statements, and then after that, maybe ask them for or seek their suggestions and thoughts on what do they think on the statements which I've just made. Is it really applicable for India? So why don't I start with Dwarka Sir, with you first.
As you know, at the same time, by 2020, the report says, due to digitalization and technological changes, 6 crore people will become surplus. You know, so I think I think when you say, should we do this? I would say, yes, we need to do it. But while we're doing it, we need to be conscious about a couple of aspects. I think, demographics is very important. We have the advantages of youth power. We need to take advantages of it. We have a very well-educated people. We should leverage on their strengths and make it a global enterprise and a hub for the global talent, which is happening now. But at the same time, we need to be conscious about it. Coming from a manufacturing sector and all that, you need to be conscious about one factor. One of the factors is the rich and poor differences should not be too much be seen. And number 2 is that while we are doing it, how we can make and rehabilitate people. I'm not saying we should not be progressive. We should not bring the changes. We should go with the tide. We should make our country very productive and number 1 in the economy in next 30 years or so.
But I think our biggest challenge, and I think Adil said it very well before this, that I think our profession is in the danger of sort of over-depending on technology and losing the importance of keeping a human face in the relations that we build within the company. And I think it's something that, I enjoy having many people on my team. I have a bunch of people who believe that, everything can be digitized. I then have a bunch of HR people who believe everything needs to be done, face to face, etc. So I find myself in a good place from a balance perspective. But I do believe that, if you talk to any HR person today, he will say, oh, I'm so busy doing this report, or I'm so busy making some spreadsheet or the other. And I think it is time for all that to disappear so that we can spend time with the people that we are supposed to make better performers. We are supposed to make more passionate. They're supposed to be more proficient, more productive. I believe there are new roles emerging.
When you look at the customer organization, there are 3 distinct parts I get to see. One is the traditional ecosystem. One is the transformation ecosystem that's trying to make things change. And there is a small little innovation agenda that's been driven that's still very, very small. Right? So the whole hurrying up of this thought process that something is going to be extremely disruptive, there will be time. And let's not forget, right, we might represent different industries, but the simple unit was laid down by process people, right? And there are multiple processes that come together to form an industry. And having said that, the last time the revolution happened in the manufacturing side, we actually ended up creating more jobs, right? I think in this whole digital and this cloud journey, the country will transform more towards a skill requirement than an extraordinary education requirement. And the second transition that will happen is we need to equip our people with far more decision-making skills, right? Which I think we are a bit inadequate in our country in empowering people and giving them experiences on decision constructs, right? I think with these 2 broader agenda, I'm not that extremely worried with the whole thing, but I think it's going to be more like an enabler for us than a disenabler.
When we talk about robotic and cognitive automation or digital labors, there are various ways digitalization is being explained. The demographic of the country plays a very critical role. While UK, Italy, Germany, Japan, China, all of them have a shrinking population. But that's not really true for India and Brazil. We are going to increase our workforce. So the question of reducing jobs, how does it practically work for us, Prabir? And what will be the larger impact?
See, there is going to be, I personally believe, a crisis. And I believe there's a huge opportunity. It all depends on how we play it. I personally believe the private sector still is a small player in the larger scheme of things. I think it's very important, therefore, that, and I've been a very strong proponent of this, I think we have to stop this craze of college degrees which make no sense. We must push for far greater vocationalization, make skills as relevant to the new age. I personally believe emotions and empathy notwithstanding, the realities of technology are here to stay. The pressures of economics are going to, so I think that's one within India. I think the other aspect that I believe India will possibly need to look at is, I think if we can retrain and reskill the emergent workforce in India to the requirements that the world has to present, I think there's a huge opportunity. I mean, look at little things about infrastructure development. Africa is opening up. They have their share of challenges. Europe doesn't have manpower. They are developed. India itself has huge opportunities. Can we just make sure that we customize a lot of our workforce demographics to emergent economic realities and not just white-collared jobs? This is the big challenge. The entire focus, the socialization in India also is about white-collared jobs. And that is going to not increase. I think a huge opportunity is really around infrastructure, and therefore quality of education, the nuance of education, training will have to dramatically change. I think it's less a downstream action, it's more an upstream reality which, the larger practitioners of HR, policy makers, the academia will need to address.
Thank you so much, Prabir. Your thoughts are always quite interesting. TP, before we go to the question and answers, can I know your views on the same?
As far as India is concerned, I think I have a great confidence. We have weathered a lot of ups and downs the way we are, right? If you just look at in the very recent past, call centers was a key thing that we started with. We had no skills at all available for so-called call centers. But, we sort of created the skills started working at it. We were not the best in the call centers. This moved into Ireland and moved into Philippines. But we moved up the value chains, which was in the area of analytics, right? So we did that. So I think Indians have the quite resilience. I think as long as we are able to create the right awareness, skills is going to become a big piece, big differentiator. If our population, our talent is able to acquire those skills. And that is why I think personally, I have been for the last almost 18 months to 2 years with respect within my own company and every other forum saying, I think A, we need to all own our own careers. B, please upskill yourself. Please look at what's happening around you. Please add to your learning is going to be lifelong. We have always said that, you continue to learn lifelong, but I'm saying learning for new skills has to be lifelong. Otherwise, there is going to be an impact. Now, is the impact going to be suddenly or is it going to happen slowly? I think we just need to understand that. It is not as if you have thrown a stone inside and then you have the ripples which is happening and there you have an opportunity for it. Well, no, it's different. It will actually come from outside, something that you're not visualizing, and it will encircle you and take you down and you'll drown if you're not aware of what's happening. It's like the frog in the, slowly warming up water which boils. Because that's what's going to happen. I mean, if you actually go through the YouTube videos of the kind of work that is happening on the AI and the cognitive space, you will realize it's scary. When I say scary, it's scary in the sense the impact it is going to create for the world in a very positive way. And I think, one of our SVPs was onto one of the forums stated, at least for the next 70 to 80 years, we do not expect that AI is going to become malevolent. It will be benevolent. It will benefit the world. Now, like any other thing, people can play truant with it, because today the professors in various universities and the researchers are actually training these so-called cognitive artificial AI robots to also acquire emotions, right? So we've done that experiment ourselves. You speak angrily to it, you'll get a response in an anger way. They're being taught to read the facial expressions to be able to understand whether the person is happy or angry and stuff like that. I think what's going to happen is the human beings, and that's what Prithvi said, and let's say coming back to our profession and to the profession in the corporate world, there will be all jobs that can be run through a very rigid algorithm, which has a question, answer, which is there, will get automated, will get into artificial intelligence. As that happens, the role of middle managers are going to get reduced, right? And therefore, that is going to be the flattening which is going to take place. So in short, yes, there will be routine work where we should not be spending time. As HR, we'll need more consultants, more advisors who can work with people. Employees will be looking at more and more experience. They will be looking at more and more engaging, and we'll have to equip them with technology to be more productive, to compete in the world. Our own people here, to compete in the world, they will have to be made more productive.
Thank you so much, DP. I think what we are hearing is that talent transformation is one word. Others have used skill-based education, and softer aspects need to be continued. Taking a very balanced view has to be maintained. Before we conclude, I think we can go for 2 questions from the audience, and 2 questions are welcome.
My name is Ashok Sharma. I'm from industry. My question is to Mr. DP Singh. 2 things I learned here is that in future, innovation technology is going to do. One is artificial intelligence, which is going to take the routine work from the human being, which will be taken care of. Right, sir? Second is cognitive, what is said. Now, my question is, today the topic is innovation, and we have to manage the innovation to compete with the, with the competition in the market. And I feel when we say innovation in the organization will be generated by the creativity. So my question is, what are the various means in the organization you will implement to create an innovative or creative organization?
Yeah, thank you. I think a very good question. And I think somewhere it had got addressed that, you cannot bring about innovation till you have a culture of innovation, right? And to create a culture of innovation, you need to have processes, you need to have systems, policies, which allow employees to really innovate. So for example, when I talk about cognitive platforms, so we've run few programs, we call it Cogni Build, where people can come up with the best of the ideas which are cognitive in nature, build them up, and they pitch for it, and if they are good, they get funded for it. So innovation is about a culture where people can come with new ideas to solve business problems, client problems, or the problems of the world, right? And they should be encouraged, and the environment should be ready to receive it.
Thank you so much. You all have been an awesome audience. Thank you.